Welcome to the Wonder and Whimsy podcast, where everything is wonderful and whimsical. I'm Kim Hamilton, and today I'm going to be chatting with Tenaya Cleveland, a good friend of mine. We're going to be reading a couple poems by Rumi and Mary Oliver and talking about the deeper meaning and how they've affected us personally. So if you like poetry, if you like philosophy, please subscribe to this channel, share it. So the first poem we're going to be reading is The Guest House from Rumi. But before we start, Tenaya, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi. I'm Tenaya, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Kim and I have known each other for a long time.
I know. How long has it been? Like 15 years?
Close to that.
Maybe? Yeah.
Yeah, we probably met in 2012, maybe?
I don't even remember how we met. Do you?
I think Atlanta Film Festival.
Atlanta Film Festival.
I think.
Yeah. And then we always see each other at the film festival.
Yeah.
And we've,
worked together.
Yeah, and we're both yoga teachers. Well,
I'm a certified yoga instructor, but haven't taught for a while. But yes, we both have that.
But you speak.
Actually, you were one of my
Yeah.
test students before you ever trained to be a teacher. Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah. So you're certified to teach. So you speak the yoga language.
I do, yeah.
And yes, I remember before I became certified to teach, I was like your test student. So we've known each other for a really long time.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to read this poem, Rumi, The Guest House. So speaking of yoga, I thought it was interesting because it was your idea to discuss this poem, and I was delighted because I often read this poem in my yoga classes.
That's awesome.
Because it's very related to yoga. The Guest House by Rumi. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whatever comes because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. So there's so much I love about this poem. The reason I read it in my yoga classes because it's very relevant to observing our emotions without identifying with them, which is what I teach in meditation. A joy, a depression, a meanness. We often talk about our emotions as I am statements, like I am sad, I am angry. But we are more than just our emotions. So Rumi suggests that our emotions are just visitors and they're teachers. And we often look at emotions as positive emotions and negative emotions, like, oh, anger is negative. But Rumi invites us to consider that perhaps every emotion is a lesson, a guide from beyond. So it's important to ask ourselves, what can we learn from these emotions? Like, what is fear teaching me? Perhaps fear is teaching me more about what I truly desire or what I need to let go of. You know, what is anger teaching me? So I think when we approach all our emotions that way as a gift as opposed to something to avoid, it can help us have clarity and peace of mind. And it also reminds me of, have you heard of the dark side of the mind in meditation?
I think so.
Yeah, so there's this concept, some people call it the dark side of the mind. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Because when we're meditating, oftentimes we'll experience these thoughts that might surprise us, that are kind of dark.
Yeah.
And meditation is a practice of observing our thoughts without judging them as good or bad. And it's important to embrace the darkness and ask ourselves what we can learn from it. And without the darkness, we couldn't experience the light, right? If we can't fully understand sorrow, we can't really experience joy. So it's important to allow ourselves to feel our feelings, you know. So I think there's a lot of great messages you can glean from this poem. But I'm curious, what it means to you, what you think of it, and how it's impacted your life.
Yeah. Well, it is a very cool synchronicity that this is something you've really resonated with and shared with people. I've shared it with many people. And I've gone back to it at times in my life when I feel lost. I think, the first time I read it, it was like this radical idea. Like, I mean, I had been reading Rumi. Someone gave me The Essential Rumi by Coleman Barks, who's from Georgia, which at the time I was in California, I had no idea. But I love his translations of Rumi's work. And I don't remember where in the process I was first exposed specifically to this one. But I just thought, wow, that is radical. Like, it's hard to even encapsulate what it means to me because it has come to me, it has come back to me. I've gone back to it so many times in life. And I just think, you talk about the dark side of the mind. I think it's so important to embrace and integrate our shadow. And I think one of the biggest problems we have in the world today is the denial of, the suppression of, and then the corruption of the disintegrated shadow part of ourselves. So personally, it's just a reminder to accept, every part of myself. Collectively, I think it's just an important message that people need to hear.
Yeah.
And I know for me, I've needed to hear it over and over again, and I've heard different things in it every time. Listening to you this time was really interesting because usually I'm the one reading it to myself or to someone else. So that was cool. Just like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and I love that it sort of reflects Buddhist philosophy, because Buddhists often discuss this concept of impermanence and non-attachment.
Yeah.
And so to me, this poem echoes this philosophy of not attaching to our emotions and a reminder that all of our emotions are temporary. So when you're dealing with something like grief, grief can be looked at as very negative, but Rumi also has a great quote about grief, how grief is just a reminder that, love existed. So the reason you're grieving is because you had a meaningful experience. And I think he also has a quote that, like, grief is just love with nowhere to go. So it's a reminder that, okay, you are capable of experiencing this beautiful thing, and just because you're grieving the loss of it, you can still, like, share it with other people that are still alive, or that, So I think the way Rumi looks at grief and other emotions like sorrow, or all the emotions we sometimes are uncomfortable feeling, he has like a beautiful way of looking at them, and it very much echoes Buddhist philosophy of non-attachment and impermanence, because there's a part of our brain that is simply the observer of our emotions. So instead of telling ourselves, oh, I am grieving, if we tell ourselves, I observe grief, then we step into a space of observation, and we create a little space between our emotions. So we can process that emotion with a little bit of distance. So it's a way of experiencing the emotion, validating the emotion without getting consumed by it. So without getting consumed by grief or consumed by anger, we create a little space. And that's very much Buddhist philosophy. And this poem also reminds me of Stoicism. Stoicism isn't about ignoring your emotions or becoming stoic in that sense. It's about recognizing that it's not an experience that makes us feel a certain way. It's our relationship to that experience. It's our reaction to that experience and our response. So when we can regulate our reaction or shift our perspective about that experience, that's freeing and that's powerful.
Yeah.
And so that's what I love about this poem. You know, it echoes Buddhist philosophy, Stoic philosophy, mindfulness, which I teach in yoga. So I just love everything about it. But I don't know, any other thoughts about any particular lines, like your favorite lines in the poem, or?
Well, I wanted to speak on the phraseology, you know, around like I am grieving versus I am experiencing grief. There's
Yeah.
also I'm feeling grief,
Yeah.
and I think anything, yes, where you're sort of taking a step outside and observing. I love the idea that I there was a recording, and I don't remember who it was by, but my mom sent it to me years ago. It was grief and praise, and the idea was that they were two sides of the same coin.
Grief and praise.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's what it was called.
Okay.
But also, I think by moving through, I think of our experience, our human experience, as like all the colors on a palette, like a painter, right? You can't. It's like what you were saying in the Buddhist philosophy. Like one thing doesn't exist without the other. Like if we want to experience a full life, then we want all the colors and the juxtaposition of colors. And there's also just this really, really, really beautiful thing after going through one of the most difficult experiences of grief that I've ever gone through last year. There is no, I don't know, there's no other place that is quite as sweet and beautiful as being able to meet someone in a place that is dark like that and say, hey, like I'm really here with you. I really understand. And I just got like almost chills because for me at least, I think there's such a special thing to have gone through really dark places, come back from it, and then be able to reach out your hand to someone else who is there. So in that way, I think those emotions that might be considered dark or difficult give you access to something really beautiful. And that, if I think about, you know, my favorite lines, I think over time those have changed, but definitely the dark thought, the shame, the malice. We're owning the fact that we all have these really, really like the things that are considered the worst,
Yeah.
you know, aspects of humanity. We all have that.
Right.
And if we can give it space, you know, it's like I forget if it was David White, the poet who I love, who did the art of self-compassion,
Yeah.
the poetry of self-compassion. I forget if it was him that was talking about this or if I heard it somewhere else, but this idea that we want to like push parts of ourselves like into a corner and like pretend they're not there, and they just get angry and they get more, you know, hurt, and when you finally decide to invite them to the table to integrate, right?
Yeah.
They're like going to be upset for a while. But
Right.
we have to invite them to the table and integrate them. So, yeah, just the idea that like, if we own our crap,
Yeah.
then we can start to really be fully integrated humans and relate to each other with more compassion.
Yes.
And ourselves with more compassion.
Yeah, and those types of emotions that we sometimes look at as dark are actually they're learning experiences.
Yeah.
And when we can identify the lesson that those experiences are teaching us, you know, like we're sitting in front of stars today, but stars are bright and beautiful, but they evolve out of like dark chaos. Right? So sometimes you have to have chaos in order to learn and grow and evolve. See the lights.
Yeah.
So
and find the peace.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of value in that. And you said something that I think is also really important, how vulnerability is basically the catalyst of human connection. You know, if in order to connect deeply with one another, it's about being unapologetically like authentic.
Yeah.
And authenticity isn't always just rainbows and sunshine and happiness. You know, it's like, it's pain, it's sorrow. And when you can connect on that level, and say, you know, I hurt just like you do. I've experienced pain just like you have. I've experienced grief. That creates a stronger connection between us and a more sense of unity. You know, I feel like the world's very divided in many ways. So the more vulnerable we can be with each other, the more we can connect and unify. So what you said, I definitely agree with. Yeah. So do you want to say anything else about this particular poem? Anything, or do you want to move on to the next one?
You know, I think what you just said is a perfect segue, actually, to the next one, touching on that shared grief.
Yeah.
Or a shared sorrow or vulnerability.
All right. Well, you want to pull it out and
Sure. Let me whip it out.
Read the poem. Yeah.
Yeah, I pulled up the other one, but I forgot about that one. I actually know it pretty well, but there's a couple little like words that I.
Oh, before you do that,
Yes.
I found the quote. So this is the Rumi quote that I was
yeah.
thinking of. So Rumi also says, "Your task is not to seek for love,
Yes.
but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you've built against it."
Yes.
So I like this because it suggests that love isn't something that we search for outside, externally, in other people. It's something that we can cultivate within by removing those barriers, those walls.
I'm smiling because I actually thought of bringing up that quote. I actually looked it up earlier, and I was like, I don't know if it exactly relates. So I didn't.
I mean, it's Rumi.
Yeah.
I mean, Rumi has like a million great quotes.
Sure.
You know, I love Rumi.
Yeah.
But that's something I like to think about often because we often feel like we, you know, there's like this like modern romantic idea like, oh, I have to find like my soulmate or whatever, or I have to find love outside of myself. And he suggests that no, you can actually find it within. Because it comes from within, or at least that's how he looks at it. So I think that's a very interesting way of looking at it. It's more about like removing the layers you've built against it versus like looking externally. So
Well, and I also think I'm gonna blow my nose here.
yeah,
Because,
and
like-
it also echoes that like suffering becomes transformation. You know, the Buddhists talk a lot about how life is suffering. So if we spend our lives trying to avoid suffering, that actually creates pain and agony. But when we can just accept that life is suffering, life is painful, life may never get any better than what it is. You know? But
but it will always change.
And
like,
that's the thing. It's like everything changes. Nothing lasts forever. But when we can, in those moments where we feel suffering, if we can just accept that this is actually a gift, a teacher, something to learn from, something to grow from, then it makes the experience, you know, a little less serious, right?
Sure. I also another thing I love about the quote about seeking to identify the blocks within ourselves. Two things. First, I realized at some point in my life that no matter how much someone loves you, it doesn't actually affect your state of being unless you can receive it. And also, what is much more important and has much more of an effect is your ability to love.
Yeah.
It's much more important for my health and my joy to love someone than to be loved. Because everyone can love you, but if you can't receive it, it doesn't really mean a whole lot. So,
right.
I love the idea, again, going back to it coming from within. And
yeah, and that also raises other questions about like the philosophy of love. You know,
Right,
love
sure.
is this word
right.
that means something different to everyone.
It's a huge word. I heard at one point that in Sanskrit they have like 100 different words for what we just call love.
Yeah,
like,
in Sanskrit, that's what's interesting because Sanskrit has like they different words that the English language doesn't even have.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, if you go back to the Greeks categorize love as all these different types of love and. But it is, at the end of the day, it is just a word.
Sure.
That it's a social construct. And everyone has a different notion of what that is. So it's hard to kind of generalize that. But when you look at it as like, you know, like affection and care and, you know, warmth and however you want to like describe it, it's something that you can cultivate within. And I think that's more valuable than seeking outward.
Sure.
Because, you're with yourself all the time.
Yeah.
So when you can find a sense of self-love, that can be fulfilling, and it doesn't depend on external anything.
Yeah.
It's difficult because we're also like dependent on each other for different things.
Yeah.
Right? And it can feel like we need that from someone else.
Well, I think we all need to care for each other. Like
Yeah.
we need to care, and we need to feel a sense of we are cared for.
Right.
I think.
I'm curious though, now that we're on the topic, because
Yeah.
I like to ask this question.
Yeah.
I like to pick people's brain about this.
Yeah.
Like, because love is such like a big philosophical idea. Like,
Yeah.
do you mind if I ask you what's your perspective on love? Like, how do you define love?
Yeah, that is a big question. It's funny because about maybe a year-ish ago, I actually Googled, maybe 2 years ago now, I searched, how do I love myself? Because it had occurred to me that I didn't know what that meant. So often we're taught that there's something wrong with like being oriented toward yourself, right?
Right.
And the idea, I think at some point, the idea of self-love sounded like this negative thing. And I realized I didn't know what that even meant. And so I think I'm still discovering what that means. And I follow a lot of like accounts that talk about relationships and love and what it means. And some people are like, love is just a commitment. Love is action, love is this, love is that. I think, again, it's a huge word. I think there's so many different kinds of love. And I think I naturally, I feel affection and caring for so many people in so many different ways. I can love someone and like be in love, like feel like I just care so much about them platonically and or romantically or philosophically. There are people who I love and I never want to see them. I'll love you from afar. I wish you the best. Right?
Yeah.
Like to me, I guess I associate mostly with the concept of caring.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Because some people think love is a feeling. Some people think love is a verb. Some people think love is an action or a choice.
Right.
So you equate it more as a feeling?
I mean, if I had to encapsulate it into one thing, but I think it does describe so many things.
Yeah, yeah.
There are so many kinds of love.
Okay. Agreed.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so moving on.
Yeah, I know. I was trying to think of another question, like to dig a little deeper, but I think that sort of is a nice segue to this next poem because it's about, you were talking about self-love.
Yeah.
And, when I'm teaching my classes, I always talk about practicing yoga is basically like an activity of self-love.
Sure, yeah.
And when I was getting into yoga and meditation, I was like, maybe that's just self-indulgent bullshit. Maybe it really is. But then, the more you practice, the more you realize that it can help you become a more peaceful person. And so, and that affects everyone else.
Yeah.
So I always say, like, you can't give from an empty cup. You have to fill up your cup before you can give to others. So you have to practice self-care first before you can give that. But that doesn't mean being like a selfish a-hole and being...
Well, I think that, the distinction is the a-hole part, right?
Right, yeah.
Because a long time ago, I realized that it's actually like I'm selfish when I give because it makes me feel good.
Well, yeah, I mean, that too. It's like there's a whole notion of ideology that there is no such thing as a selfless act because a lot of the things we do that feel selfless, we do because they make us feel good.
Yeah.
So in that sense, are we selfless if the reason we're doing it is because it makes us feel good?
And does that matter? Like to me, I think I have this idealized version of humanity, and it could be wrong, right? But my idealized version of it is that when going back to what you were saying, when we truly care for ourselves and are selfish and really tap into our own like sense of integrity, which can be hard sometimes, but when we truly tap into what is really best for us, it is also what's best for the world.
Yeah, I agree. And I also feel like, to your point, what does it matter? Because sometimes I wonder, I'm like, am I doing this thing because I really, really care? Or am I just doing it because it makes me feel like a good person?
Right.
Because it makes me feel good about myself. So it's not really selfless if I'm doing
Right.
it because it makes me feel good. But what does that even matter? Because I'm still doing the good thing. So it's still having a positive, you know what I mean?
And then it gets into layers and nuance and like, do we need to check ourselves for like, are we doing things performatively versus like from a genuine place? And like, then how much are we going to shame ourselves if we make a mistake or if we come from a place of, and then, how much do we allow ourselves to grow and go, oh, geez, I thought I was being really selfless and good, but actually maybe, I was doing it in a way that was detrimental to myself or someone else. And I mean, it's an ongoing, process.
Yeah. And, there's no perfect science to it all. But I think it's fun to wonder about this stuff.
Yeah.
So you want to read the next?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Cool.
This is Wild Geese by Mary Oliver. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things. I love it so much.
So what do you love about it?
Oh, so many things. I love that it reminds me that I am part of nature. We can so easily forget. We are animals. I love that it removes a sense of external morality and puts you in your body. At least for me, it puts me in my body. I love the image of the wild geese. I love the idea that no matter who you are and how lost you may feel, you're still part of this collective thing called nature. You have a place in the family of things. So often I think I have felt, and so often I think people feel, especially in this day and age of technology, making us isolated, they feel like they don't have a place in the world. So often I've questioned why I'm here. It talks about the shared experience of despair, but it also talks about the experience of feeling completely alone. And yeah, it just helps me to feel reconnected to a sense of purpose, even if I don't know what it is, and that I don't have to know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I really appreciate that a lot. When I read this poem, I struggled with some of it because this sense of like feeling worthy, I feel like modern American society especially trains us to think that we have to earn our worthiness.
Yeah.
And I struggle with that a lot. Like if I don't feel productive, I don't necessarily feel worthy. Like I feel like I have to be productive. So I like that this is sort of like reinforcing this idea that maybe just being born makes us worthy of the good things to experience in this human body. And I like that, you know, because she says you do not have to be good.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like a radical rejection of perfectionism.
Yeah.
That worth is not earned. And I think a lot of people can relate to that sense of like, I feel like I need to earn this thing. You do not have to walk on your knees. So it rejects sort of shame-based spirituality.
Yeah.
And it rejects like constant self-punishment. You know, many of us are raised with this idea that we have to be perfect all the time. And when we're not, we often like self-sabotage and punish ourselves. So it's sort of freeing the mind from thinking in those shameful contexts, which I appreciate. And then you only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. So that line I think is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
The soft animal of your body love what it loves. I spent a minute thinking about that one because I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
You know.
I'm still kind of trying to figure it out myself.
Yeah, to me, I feel like it sort of means like just kind of trusting in your natural instincts.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it makes me think about how are we that different from animals? And the wild geese, for instance, wild geese fly without questioning their worth, without questioning, do I deserve to have this ability to fly in the sky?
Sure. Yeah.
Without questioning and overly complicating relationships, which human beings overcomplicate relationships all the time. And we take ourselves so seriously. So to simplify our existence is like, you only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Like, that's like a nice idea. Like, I wish I could fully embrace that in my life. I don't know if I can, but.
Yeah.
And then I really like, tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you about mine. So that sort of echoes what we were talking about, how real connection comes through vulnerability.
Yeah.
And shared suffering creates community. So yeah, and there's also sort of this sense of like the geese symbolize this natural sense of homecoming. You know, like we all want to feel the sense of belonging, and that can be challenging. You know.
Yeah.
So why do you think humans struggle feeling like they belong here?
Ooh, that is a big question. Why do I think human beings struggle with feeling like they belong? Well, we are weird in that we are animals. And we also have the ability to self-reflect.
Yeah.
And it's a great question.
Because geese don't struggle with that, I don't think.
Yeah, as far as we know, they don't.
As far as we know, the other animals out there don't necessarily struggle with this, like...
Right. I wonder about dolphins. They say they're really smart.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think to some degree... you can see some of that in certain animals, but I don't think they intellectualize it the way that we do. I don't know why.
I think it's because we have a sense of self-awareness.
Sure. Well, yeah.
The other line I really, really love in this is the world offers itself to your imagination.
Yes.
The world offers itself to your imagination.
Yes.
I think that's so just like life affirming.
Oh, it is.
Because whenever you're feeling like frustrated with life, you forget like the awe and mystery of the world. And so it's like a nice like life affirming reminder that the world is here for us to experience.
Yeah.
And we can kind of decide how we want to experience. I think she also has a good quote like, what are you going to do with this beautiful life? Like the choice is yours.
Yeah.
Like, you can decide how you want to experience this world. And so I really like that line in the poem as well, because life invites engagement. It doesn't invite us to just sit still and watch it. It invites us to engage with it and interact with it.
Yeah.
The poem also reminded me of a Walt Whitman quote. I don't know if you've heard about this one. Do you like Walt Whitman?
From what I have heard, I do like Walt Whitman, yes.
So I like this. For every atom belonging to me, as good belongings to you. For every atom belonging to me, as good belongs to you. So that's, this echoes this theme of interconnectedness, which Mary Oliver also talks about in her poem, The Singularity. She talks about the singularity. And it's all about interconnectedness and how we're all sort of connected with this invisible energy that we try to quantify through science. But science is limited in what we understand about the energy that connects us all. So anyway, do you want to read the third poem, or do you want to chat any more about this one?
Well, one thing I want to speak to is the line about the wild geese calling out harsh and exciting.
Yeah.
Reminding us that, of our place in the family of things. There's something about that when I'm in my most sort of depressed state, there's something about that idea that even that in of itself, you think about the wild geese, they make the sound. It's like it's not generally that attractive, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that itself speaks to the belongingness of even the things that we may associate with as negative, and that sometimes we need to be jarred out of our still. I mean, stillness is important and reflection is important. But sometimes we need to have something harsh, but it's also exciting.
Yeah.
To remind us of our place, and the idea that they call out over and over again. So if we're not listening or we can't hear it, it doesn't matter how long we can't hear it. They're calling. Nature's calling constantly to remind us of our place in the family of things. So when we're ready, then we can awaken to it. And yeah, there's something really beautiful about that to me. Like,
how we're not separate from nature. Like, it's interesting how you say nature is calling, but to me, I feel like nature reminds me that I'm not separate from it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That we are all made up of the same thing.
Yeah.
And so I think that's probably why when we're, looking at a tree or at a flower, that it calms our nervous system. Like, I always encourage my students to practice yoga outside, because there's something scientific that happens to our nervous systems when we're surrounded by nature as opposed to technology. And I think it's sort of this subconscious sense of connection that we came from nature. We are nature.
Yeah.
We're not separate from it.
Yeah. And that energy that connects everything, it really does connect everything.
There's this another philosopher, which I really enjoy. I mean, he can get a little esoteric at times, but are you familiar with Alan Watts?
Oh, I love Alan Watts.
Okay. So you might know this quote. So you are an aperture through which the universe is looking at itself. So it's a reminder that we are the universe is within us. The universe isn't this separate thing from us. We're basically we are the universe looking at itself.
Yep.
So it's a reminder that we belong to something bigger than our ego. Our social identity that we spend so much time obsessing over and trying to protect and worry about is an illusion. That we belong to something greater than our ego. So that's what I like about a lot of Alan Watts's talks.
Yeah. Well, I can get very esoteric myself.
Yeah, I love that stuff.
I literally believe that everything is energy, and we are just part of one big white light, which I literally can. I will say this on camera. I can see the white light underneath everything.
Yeah. So you can see white light?
Yeah, it's
Can you
like
see white light around me?
it's not so
Can you
much.
see my aura?
It's not so much that I clearly see auras, but I
Yeah.
do see people's like when I look at.
This
Weird.
isn't crazy at all because
Um,
I totally
I see
understand it.
I see people as bright or dull,
Oh,
and it
okay.
can change, um, depending on their mood or their energy at the moment. Um, and I don't so much see auras like different colors or things that some other people see. But I realized at some point, it was at night, my eyes were closed, and you think of like you close your eyes and it's dark, but I realized I saw sort of like blackness, but also light underneath it, and I don't know how to explain it other than it's kind of like space. Um, and since I discovered that, I now, when I think about it, I just I just see light under everything.
Okay.
It's like I see the things that other people see,
Yeah.
but everything we see is light. Like that's how things communicate.
Right.
Um,
Everything is a light wave.
right.
Yeah.
But I've also had experiences that may or may not have involved psychedelics, where I merged with the light and then came back to myself and rediscovered myself through my ego.
Okay. Interesting.
So yeah, we could get into lots of deep stuff, but we don't have time for all that. But no, I really believe that we are all part of one collective energy, and I believe that we are the universe experiencing itself, or as I used to say, God playing with itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're just, God jerking itself off. Like,
I mean, there's lots of different kinds of play.
But no, so I think it's interesting. So when I was a kid, my dad actually taught me how to see light from the trees. So all it is anybody can do it.
Yeah.
So the idea is like, especially if it's like sunset, if you look out over a horizon at trees, and it's almost like you're training your eye. It's like you're trying to focus on the space in front of you. So you have to relax your eyes completely. And it's almost like you're trying to look at the air in front of you. And if you do that, especially if you're in front of trees or sometimes people, you can actually see like a faint little white glow. Because we all are radiating energy.
Right.
This is science. This isn't necessarily woo-woo science either.
No.
Some people think it's all like woo-woo science, but
No.
we all have an energy field.
Yeah.
And you can actually see, it's just about you have to relax your eyes. So sometimes when I'm talking to someone, it'll just kind of pop out and I'll see sort of like it's faint.
Yeah.
Again, I don't see colors either, but I
Right.
do see a faint little like white glow. So I think that means something, unless our eyes are just playing tricks on us.
Yeah. I mean, I'm willing to accept that I may be wrong about everything.
But same. I think to be truly open-minded, you have to accept that your whole worldview could shift in any given moment.
Yep.
Another quote by Alan Watts, which I love,
yes.
is that you are under no obligation to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And I remind myself of that all the time because so much of our identity is like trapped in memory and like the life choices we've made previously. But we are under no obligation to be the same person we were 5 minutes ago. We have the freedom to choose and choose a different path at any given moment. So I could choose to join the circus tomorrow,
Right.
and dye my hair blonde and, go by a different name. And I could choose to just, behave very differently if I wanted to.
Yeah.
So I think that's very freeing when you think about it. And same thing with like our worldview and our perspective on things. We don't have to stay attached to a particular worldview. And if you keep an open mind, who knows, like you might be surprised by how much your perspective can shift like in an instant.
Yeah,
So,
I think conviction and commitment are important.
yeah.
This is one of those, paradoxical things, right? I think being committed to something and having conviction are important. it's also important to accept that something may reveal itself to you that completely
Right.
changes the way you see things. And
Yeah.
you can make certain choices absolutely in who you are. In fact, I would say we are not the same person every 5 minutes. And I've been thinking a lot about the quote that in order to become the person you want to be, you have to be willing to give up the person who you are.
Right.
So yeah, lots of thoughts.
Yeah, and when you say giving up the person who you were, you know, a lot of times we associate strength with holding on, but sometimes strength is actually letting go.
Yeah.
Like letting go of our attachments that might actually like be holding us back. Right?
Yeah.
So strength isn't just in staying firm in your beliefs.
Yeah.
Strength is actually letting go at times.
At times, and that's where it becomes tricky.
It becomes tricky because
Yeah.
So let's read this third poem.
Yes.
Which is another beautiful poem by Mary Oliver called The Journey.
Yeah. So the reason I like this as both a compliment and a juxtaposition to the previous poem is that I think it speaks to the sort of contradiction between self-acceptance and being completely a part of things, and then this idea that sometimes we have to separate and individuate.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is a little blurry. Let me find the one that's better, I can read better. Okay. I don't know why it's like, okay, I'm going to find it. No. Okay, there we go.
So this is Journey.
The Journey.
The Journey by
Yeah.
Mary Oliver.
Yeah. One day you finally knew what you had to do and began, though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice, though the whole house began to tremble and you felt the old tug at your ankles. Mend my life, each voice cried, but you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do, though the wind pried with its stiff fingers at the very foundations, though their melancholy was terrible. It was already late enough and a wild night, and the road full of fallen branches and stones. But little by little, as you left their voices behind, the stars began to burn through the sheets of clouds, and there was a new voice which you slowly recognized as your own, that kept you company as you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do, determined to save the only life you could save.
So what do you like about this one?
Taking responsibility for yourself and recognizing that you can care about others, but you have to take care of yourself and listen to your own voice first, which goes back to the idea we were talking about before. I do believe that if you can listen to that voice and really get in alignment with who you really are, that ultimately then you can serve others more effectively. But if you spend your whole life trying to make everyone happy and fix everyone else before you care for yourself and before you go through that journey, then you can't really be effective at any of it, caring for yourself or others.
Yeah, I think there's some great phrases in there. I like the part where it says, where it sort of talks about like other people around you telling you who you should be, instead of deciding for yourself who you want to be.
Yeah.
And it also raises the question, who we are. It brings up free will a little bit.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
how much control do we have over who we are? Can we consciously control who we are? Or is who we are sort of predetermined by genetics, environment, cultural conditioning? Are our thoughts really our own?
Right.
We might think that our thoughts are our own because it feels like they are, but how much of our thoughts are actually shaped by what society tells us? So that's what I like about this poem is it raises those questions, and I like to wonder about that stuff a lot, and I like to meditate, and that's one of the reasons why I do meditate.
Yeah.
Because I feel like when you meditate, you get to a place where your subconscious mind merges with your conscious mind, because your subconscious mind is really running the show. And so when you can tap into that space, it at least feels like you have more control. And I often ask myself, like, am I making these choices to please others? Or am I making these choices because it's coming from an authentic, real place based on what I desire, based on what matters to me? So I often ask myself those questions, and sometimes it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to ask ourselves those questions and at least, wonder about these things. So any other thoughts about that?
Well, I like this idea that we have a higher self or an authentic self that honestly, I believe if we have a purpose in life, it's to do our best to be as authentic as we can. And if whether you believe in God or not, whether you believe in a supreme being that gave us each a purpose, or the fact that we were, the idea that we were just born into nature by chance, whatever the case, and this goes back to the idea of the wild geese, we all have a place. I believe we all have a place for whatever reason. And I don't think we're designed to fully understand it. But the more we can tap into that sometimes quiet voice that we often can hear better through meditation, the more true we can be to ourselves, and the more we can ultimately feed the collective. I think so much of the rest of life is just noise. And I don't know, but like I why I live life so differently than so many other people, because I don't think it's about just fitting into this ticky-tacky existence. Like, I understand that there is this world in which certain things work in certain ways, but I also believe there's something beyond that, beyond what we can understand. And that when we tap into that voice, something magical happens, and we become part of a collective, synchronistic, magical, whimsical place. And really extraordinary things can happen there. So yeah, that's why I love this idea that, but also David White, going back to the poetry of self-compassion, talks about the idea of leaving home in order to come back home. So I think, again, feeding yourself, then making you available to feed others. I think when you leave and you leave those voices behind and you truly get in touch with your own voice, then you have the ability to return from that place, and you can actually feed and help those people better, ideally.
So you mentioned this concept of the higher self. So I have to ask, I want to pick your brain.
Okay.
How do you define the higher self?
Yeah, great question.
It's your turn.
What is the higher self? Oh, yeah. Well, and that goes back to the idea of like, how much free will do we have? Because is our higher self really just what we were given, part of some collective subconscious, thing? Is it God? Is it, nature? I don't know. I think that in yoga, in my teacher training, I was taught of this concept, and I should really look it up because I feel like I always forget the exact terms, but there's this idea of the ego, and then the id and the super ego.
Yeah.
And, the idea that like we actually do need our ego, but we want our ego to serve
A greater,
the greater or what I think of as like the higher self.
Mm-hmm.
But how do I define that? I don't know. It's just that whether it's our subconscious, just tapping into the collective, or whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
there's a part of ourselves that knows things that we don't consciously fully know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think of it as higher because when you tap into it, that's, like I said, that's where the magic happens. So is it God speaking through us? Is it, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I was just curious because I've heard different perspectives on what the higher self actually is.
Sure.
And people, it's like another term people use and have different notions of.
Mm-hmm.
I like thinking of the higher self as sort of like almost like we all are born with this potential.
Mm.
And when I think of like the higher self, I think of it more as like living to my fullest potential.
I like that. Yeah.
Like the best version of myself, which may be completely different from you.
Right.
You know, because we all have, there's something unique about all of us that makes us very special. And a lot of it has to do with like our pain and our sorrow and the struggles and the suffering that shapes us in a very unique way. And I think when we can use that and learn from those experiences and do creative, productive things with that uniqueness, to me, that's sort of living as our higher selves, like fulfilling our potential. That's kind of what I think of the term, but I'm also open to other ideas of, because, you know, the higher self can have a whole different spiritual definition too, which I think is interesting to think about too. But anyway, I really appreciate you talking to me today. I love having these types of conversations. I like these three different poems because I feel like Rumi is sort of suggesting that we should welcome all of our experiences and not push anything away, like not push our emotions to the side, not repress our emotions, to embrace all our emotions, learn from our experiences. And then Mary Oliver is basically trying to say that we should, it's more about self-acceptance. And she's sort of trying to remind us that we should feel like we belong here and that we don't necessarily have to earn our worth. And to celebrate our interconnectedness. So I think those three poems together are really fun to kind of think about and reflect on. So thank you for suggesting them.
Thank you for inviting me and being open to suggestions.
Any final thoughts?
I have a short film that I produced that we're starting to submit to festivals that I'm very excited about. So I'd love for people to know about that and potentially follow along. The Instagram for that is WTLGG the movie.
So if you're listening out there and you want to follow Tenaya and what she's up to, she's an actress, writer, producer. Where can people follow you?
I'm most active on Instagram. So Tenaya.Cleveland, Tenaya.Cleveland, like the city.
Well, if you're listening at home, if you have any thoughts about existence, consciousness, how to live a happier, healthier existence, I'm always open to suggestions. So comment below. Let us know what you think about these poems and how, what they mean to you. And I encourage you to read poetry, read philosophy. I don't want reading to become a dying art. In this modern age, I fear that it's becoming a dying art. So, so if you've read these poems, comment. Let's keep the conversation going. Let me know what they mean to you. And thanks for listening.